I wanted to grab the last little bit of natural light and make this video. It's an update video I should have made a while ago, but I just haven't had time, which ties into the answer to the main question I get asked a lot, which is, do I still use perfect fourths tuning? If you're clicking on this video to find the answer, then you're probably familiar with my perfect fourths tuning videos that I made a few years ago now, 3 years ago. The answer unfortunately is no, but stick with me and I'll explain why. There is I think, a very good reason for it. And the reason isn't that I don't think perfect fourths is a good tuning. On the contrary, I still think it is for me, from my perspective, the most logical way to tune the guitar, and expressively, I beg your pardon, expressively my favourite way to tune the guitar. The reason I don't tune in perfect fourths is simply logistically. Since I stopped making videos regularly, the last regular video I uploaded was November 10th, 2013, so that's 2.5 years ago. The reason for that is I'd very recently finished my master's degree in 2013, and as such had more time during the week, so I took on more teaching. And from then, from about November in 2013 to December last year, 2015, I was teaching 6 days a week, teaching guitar 6 days a week, so the only day I had off was a Sunday, which just left me no time to make videos, which is why I haven't made any videos. And because I was teaching so much during the week, I teach in schools from Monday to Friday, teach the guitar in schools. The majority of my students fall into the beginner to maybe grade 3 category. Most of my students do. I have a few standout students, but most of them fall into that category. And the reason I don't use perfect fourths with them is purely down to repertoire. While I do have a lot of students that will come with a bunch of songs that they want to learn, most students, and we'll get back to those in a second, most students don't have any sort of direction in mind when they start lessons with me. They just want to learn. And my opinion as a guitar teacher, and this is not guitar teaching advice, I'm just explaining why I don't use the tuning, is that grade books, not necessarily taking the exams, form a great backbone for these students learning. So I use the rock school grades here, which you may or may not have seen depending on what country you're in. So there's the hot rock books and the rock school books. I use the Trinity books for my classical students, and I use this wonderful book, Guitar Basics, for my absolute beginners, my younger students. Check this book out if you're teaching any young students, because when you have really little ones, like sort of 4 and 5 and 6 year olds, it can be really tricky to get them going, and there's some great tunes in there. And for these students, locking them out of this sort of existing repertoire that's already in standard tuning by teaching them in perfect fourths, I think will be detrimental to their learning. So it's a purely it comes from a teaching perspective. For me as a teacher, when students leave the lesson with me, they need to be able to do their own research and their own playing on the instrument. And there are so few perfect fourths resources out there, so few in fact, that if you search for EAD, GCF or perfect fourths tuning, my videos are some of the ones that come up. And while I really enjoy making them and I'm happy people are viewing them, they're not comprehensive at all. So the main reason, in fact the only reason I don't use perfect fourths, is purely because of my teaching. So the students I teach either are following this preset curriculum that is all to be played in standard tuning, or they're self-starters themselves and they're coming with songs that they want to learn which are inevitably in standard tuning. And I don't want to turn around to my young students who maybe come and want to learn an Ed Sheeran song or a Taylor Swift song and say, well listen guys, you should try out this other tuning because they're playing in a very illogical, it just wouldn't work, and it wouldn't fulfill their needs as a guitar student, what they want to get out of lessons. The only reason I've been able to make this video today is because I have slightly more free time than I did before, and that is slight. I no longer teach on Saturdays, so I have that time too. But I still don't have time to commit to regular weekly uploads like I did. I'm going to try and shoot for sort of 2 to 3 uploads a month. And the next question people ask is, will I be doing any more perfect fourth content? And the answer is yes. While I will probably still make a few videos on perfect fourths for more advanced players to get around the fretboard, I really do want to try and work on building up a curriculum like the ones I mentioned here for perfect fourths. So some nice simple songs for beginners to learn the note names and things like this and just get playing on the instrument. The problem is, at the moment, to get into perfect fourths, you really need to be of an intermediate standard to get there. So I think it'd be really beneficial to, at least, whether I end up using it or not, build up some resources for some of my younger students and my beginner students to get into it. And that way it might be more of a viable approach in the long term for everybody. I said it before, this tuning is not for everybody, perfect fourths I mean. But the only way it's going to be for more people is there have to be more resources out there and more arrangements and things. So that's one thing I will be working on. Another thing, as far as this channel goes, I'm not going to be doing any more weekly, Quick Links weekly videos like I did before, I don't think anyway. While I really enjoyed doing them, I'm really interested in doing some more long form videos on some heavier topics. I've got a few big videos planned on music theory for guitar players, so aimed at students who maybe got into the sort of rock and pop playing, don't understand any music theory, maybe can't read music. To get those guys, and if that's you, please stay tuned, get you guys into that sort of world and explain how that goes. And there's various things that I'm interested in talking about which you may or may not want to listen to. But to answer most people's questions on do I use perfect fourths anymore, no I don't. But that's not an indictment of the tuning. I still think it is a brilliant way to tune the guitar. And I actually got a great opportunity to chat with Alex Hutchins about this in a seminar he did, man, this must be a couple of years ago now. In fact, I think I was still making videos at the time, I may have mentioned it before. But I asked him about this because I was teaching so much, and I was so excited to be able to ask him this question because I was expecting to hear the answer that would alleviate my worries. And I asked him, well, I teach 5 days a week because I was only teaching 5 days there, it's before I got really ridiculous. And I said, how do I consolidate that with my perfect fourths tuning? And his response was, and I did have a recording of this somewhere, the day he worked out that he wanted to switch to perfect fourths, I think he said he was on a plane and he'd mapped out the fretboard. He cancelled all of his teaching. So he stopped all of his teaching. This is the answer, you know, that he gave to me, how I remember it, and basically concentrated on session and performing work where he has got the flexibility to be in perfect fourths tuning. And that is just, it wasn't financially an option for me because I needed the teaching and still do need the teaching to pay the bills, but also I love teaching so much. I do like performing occasionally, but teaching's for me, that's the 9 to 5, 6 days a week apparently job that I'm going for. So the students come first to me, which is why I have to give them a good knowledge of standard tuning. I still do teach a couple of students, introduce them to other things like perfect fourths, but I don't push it on anybody. So yeah, I know that's a bit disappointing for some people to hear, because I feel like I've made some converts with those videos, and then I don't feel slightly guilty for maybe abandoning those guys. But I do stress in those videos it's important to remember that perfect fourths is a very logical way of looking at the neck, and you should be able to adapt most materials to perfect fourths yourself if you're in an intermediate or an advanced level. And also, as many other guitar players will tell you, it's just one note difference. So don't stress too much on whether you're tuning in standard tuning or tuning in perfect fourths tuning. The important thing is that you're understanding what you're doing and that it feels natural. So yeah, hopefully this has been a useful update and it's answered a question that I get asked a lot. Please stay tuned for some more semi-regular uploads, and yeah, thanks very much for watching.